Hello and welcome to Decrypting Relationships with myself, Tolu Olafalashe,
Ole Benson.
and of course we have our uh, guest of honor from last time. He's joined us again. Welcome, Larry. I think Larry is going to be more of a permanent fixture with us
Yeah.
going forward. So I'm not going to call him a guest from
Exactly.
after this episode. But Larry, welcome. Olu, welcome. We are back with another episode of Decrypting Relationships. Olu, please give us our disclaimer, and then we're going to jump straight into today's topic.
Yeah, like we've always said, we are not trained in any area of counseling, nor are we qualified to give advice. We are just a group of people who are passionate about relationships, and we're interested or very committed to seeing people have very healthy and fruitful relationships. So we've come together to just discuss our life experiences in the hope that they will be able to help one or two people out there. So that's who we are.
Fantastic. Thank you. So we're going to jump straight in, and I hope everyone's keeping safe, by the way. Obviously in this part of the world we are in lockdown, so a lot of people have more time to think, they're spending more time with each other, but please continue to remain safe and continue to communicate, have healthy habits, whatever it is that we need to be doing to stay healthy during the lockdown. Okay, so today we are what are we talking about, guys? Remind me what we're talking about today.
Well, for us young people,
Yep.
in the discussion we had earlier, it's about us as young people developing our own identity, our own thoughts for ourselves, what is right and wrong, and what
Absolutely.
we want for our own life. So in terms of like relationships, the way you probably be a father, a parent to your children. So it's about dissecting those thoughts through me and obviously educating the OGs.
I'm going to be coming for some lectures from you, Larry, to learn all this vocabularies.
So really, in a nutshell, what you're saying is, what we're talking about is how young people begin to define their own sort of like their life, their relationship, define identity, define or almost even redefine, their belief system and their value system from where they're coming from. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Very good. Okay, so in the context of relationships, right? What is the first thing that went through your mind, Larry, in terms of, I don't know, 15, 16, I want to start to redefine my life or my relationships in this area. What was the first thing that you started to redefine, if you don't mind sharing with us?
So for like personal experiences, like my parents' relationship wasn't always the best, but they always tried, and like, what's the word I'm trying to find there? Condiment to them is they always tried to make it work for not just themselves, but for me and my little brother. So obviously it came to a time where they were just like, they have to separate, and I understood why. This was around the time I was 18, so this is the time where I was developing that mature mind. And what we went through as a family, as me and my brother went through as brothers, it's a word, I would say, mental trauma of always trying to not take sides, but always trying to keep the peace at home. So for me, it was a thing where when I was speaking to my close people around me, like my team, my cousins and all that, I think when I was ranting and raving, it kind of felt my pain, but also felt that, okay, this is the type of father he's going to be. This is the type of husband he's going to be to his wife. And this is when I started to really find God spiritually. And for us young people, I don't know for every young person out there, but I think for some young people, they have the mindset like me, but they leave the spiritual things out of it, which is, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, but I think it's just where they kind of need to reconnect with God and be like, because God is the pillar of all things. He's the one that controls everything. So without God, there's nothing I can really do. So that's when I started really to develop my spirituality with God, and he kind of leads me in this mature type of way of living. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your personal story, Larry. And you know, it's a brave thing, isn't it? We have to be brave in facing the world as
Yeah,
individuals. You know, in the context of a family, you know, you have a family identity, but like you said, you were 18, you saw certain things within the context of your family, and you had to
I
now
had to become
start
a
to
man in a sense.
form. Exactly, you have to come
Yeah,
into your own
and
as
I'm
an
agreed.
individual.
And I've always told you guys I'm gonna be honest and as raw as possible. Me and my dad, we've not seen eye to eye for about 5, 6 years now, and it's a thing where I had to, in my opinion, I had to grow up and be a man by myself. The times where I needed that emotional support, I don't know if it's because of the African culture or whatnot. I just felt at times my dad would be there, but he would say the wrong thing at the wrong time, which would then trigger my emotions, or he would just not be there at all. So I had to kind of learn and be like, okay, when I'm in this type of feeling or I'm feeling this type of way, this is how I need to sort of deal with this particular situation I'm in. And I think it's just because as old as you get, it's just about growth, and it's about what you can tolerate and what you can't tolerate. So in a sense, I started growing up. I started thinking like this about the age of 14, and I'm now 20, about to be 21 in a few months. So
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you. So, quick question then. So, you're 20, 21. How do you manage that thought process? You know, when say for example, let's just say hypothetically you are in a relationship with
mhm.
someone. How do you then begin to evaluate your relationship with the person you're with? You know, against the person, the ideal person you would like
That's a
to be, because you said you're now forming.
very good
Hmm?
question. Damn. Yeah, finish your question first. But that's a very good question.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, just to sort of like summarize the question. This question I'm trying to ask is, when you're in a relationship, how do
Mhm.
you then manage the thought process, the evaluation of the new Larry, the Larry who is now a man, stepping out into the world as a man? How do you manage that thought process and evaluation whilst you're developing in a relationship, getting to know this person, this, you know, obviously person you're interested in?
For me, um, in the past relationship, I think I've had to kind of, I wouldn't say change myself, but change a few personal things about me just to
Yeah,
benefit my girlfriend or
yeah,
my partners. But now it's like, listen, I come as I come. If you don't like it, I know there's gonna be a girl out there that will love me for me and take me for me as I would love her for her and as I would take her for her. So it's a thing where now as soon as you know yourself, you need to now say, listen, I ain't changing myself for no one. I'm not changing my morals, I'm not changing my beliefs. It could be different to what you believe in, but I'm me. And the only person that can love me is me and God. So that's it. And if you,
fantastic. Olu, that sounds exactly like very similar to what we talked about at the beginning about foundation, being true to yourself. Is that
You
right?
you literally lifted that statement out of my mouth. I just thought, the minute you finished making that statement, I was going to tie it back to our very first recording, that before you even contemplate getting into a healthy relationship, you need to know who you are.
yeah,
You need to love yourself for you, and
mm,
you need to know what your values are.
yeah,
Because if you're not sorted emotionally, psychologically, mentally, you're going to be carrying a lot of baggage into a
mm,
relationship that's supposedly going to attract somebody else with a lot of baggage.
exactly. And that's the thing. It's like you also need to question, in a sense, can your other half carry this much baggage that you have? Because it's all well and good thinking about yourself, but you also need to think about your partner.
And hence you're making sure that you're in the right headspace before you even contemplate bringing somebody else into it.
Yeah,
And that really, yeah, we couldn't be more emphatic about that, because if you don't know who you are, how then can you love somebody else if you can't even love yourself? If
yeah,
you don't accept yourself for who you are, with your flaws and your pluses and your minuses, because we all have those,
mm,
you just find out that you're unburdening yourself onto your partner and you expect them to fix that. and they do not have the capacity to, because they're probably trying to fix themselves too. So if you think somebody else is going to be the source of your happiness, that's a lot of weight to put on somebody else.
Yeah.
Hence the responsibility on each person to make sure that we do our own self-assessment. If we're needy in, or sorry, if we're needing some help, or we're lacking in some skills, let's get those fixed first. And then it puts us in a very solid position to attract somebody who is equally healthy. Because when you're not healthy, likes attract each other, so to speak. When that's why you find out that people who attract very abusive relationships are people who have grown up in that environment, and they just think that is what a normal relationship is. So we need to break those norms to make sure that each person, you assess yourself, you love yourself, you get to the point where you are healthy in your own space before you even contemplate getting into a relationship, no matter how platonic it is.
Yeah, I think it's important to add this to the mix. I've always heard the phrase that be whole within yourself before you seek to go into a relationship with someone else. You understand? And from what we've said, being whole doesn't mean you're perfect.
No.
Being whole, yeah. Being whole means you understand your flaws, you embrace your flaws, and you acknowledge that you're a work in progress.
Exactly.
And that's one thing I've learned about myself as well, in past relationships. Like, I remember one time I must have put something on my Snapchat story, and then must have been like, boy, your future wife is going to have anxiety with the amount of females you have around you. So it was like, okay, cool. If my friends can see what's going on, obviously, I'm not trying to portray that I'm a player or whatnot. So maybe I need to start cutting off people in terms of where, if I know we don't have anything that is serious, or it's a vibe type thing, it's just a thing where I just have to let you go, just for my own clarity and possibly for my own future kind of thing. So I think it's also for like a young person like me, and for the young people out there, it's also to be very aware of the circle of people you have around you, and the type of influences they have on you. So sometimes you may have to cut them off for good, and you may not have a reason, but God always has a reason, and you can't. I've always learned as a kid, you can't question God. That's one thing. That's one thing you can't do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think what you're saying also speaks into perception, because for all the efforts in the world, if the vibes you're sending across does not portray you in the right light, it just takes a humble person and somebody who really wants the best for their life to say, if my closest and dearest are seeing this about me, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I need to correct that.
Yeah.
But I think half of the time there's an element of arrogance that's in people that say, oh, that is me. I don't care what anybody thinks about me. But if you have 3-4 people who you trust and they all see the same thing except you, maybe it's time people started listening a bit more. Because surely the 3-4 people won't want the worst for you. They definitely want the best for you. They're your trusting people. So yeah, we need to listen more too, to make sure we are bringing out the best in ourselves and also bringing out the best in one another.
Yeah, that's for sure. Because I ain't the perfect guy, but that's one thing I know that I've worked on is listening and just taking in what my people say around me, and just try and have a positive flip on it, even if it's a negative thing. Just try and find the positives.
Fantastic. So earlier on, I want us to touch on something. So we've talked now about how it's important for us to have self-awareness. Here are my strengths. Here are the areas where I'm developing. I'm not perfect. I'm work in progress. So Larry, you meet this lady, this girl, you like each other, you are vibing. Yeah. Is that the word? Is that the word? Yeah. You're vibing. Okay. Yeah. Now, we talked earlier on about what are the occasions? What kind of opportunities do you have to have uninterrupted communication and go into the levels of actually comparing notes? Oh, this is where I'm strong. This is where I'm a little bit vulnerable. So or I didn't like the way you said XYZ 2 days ago, but I kept quiet. But don't get me wrong, I just want to understand, what prompts, what opportunities, how do you create the opportunity to have this kind of meaningful, in-depth conversation?
I think for us young people, it's pillow talk. Pillow talk is a time where it's late at night. Back in them school days, boy, you used to run up the house phone bill. You used to run up your phone bill. And that would be looking at like, how am I going to pay these £200? Them times I was just like, okay, now it's time for me to get unlimited minutes. So now you can't come and complain. But it's a thing where
So sorry to interrupt. Pillow talk is having a conversation on the phone.
It can be in the physical as well sometimes. Sometimes it can be in the physical.
Okay. But generally it could be on the phone on your bed and she's on, or you, okay. So let's carry on with your thought process. So you're having pillow talk. How do you initiate and how do you raise do you broach the conversation?
For me, it's just I think it's just reassurance that we are on the same page. I could ask, babe, all right, cool. We've been doing this for however long, like 2-3 months. Do you still see it going? Do you still see us going for the long run or rent a tear? And if it's like, yeah, then it's like, all right, cool. So what are the positives you're taking out of this relationship and what are the negatives? And for me, it's always for my partner. So for my future wife out there, I always ask, what are the things you want me to work on? And they can sometimes say, I want you to be more emotionally connected. I want you to be there more often, because know my schedule. But I've had issues with not having time for my previous partners, but being there more often, and just being connected and just showing the girl you love her. And and then obviously I could say my part, I want to spend more time with you. I would rather you want to chill with me more than your female friends, whatever, etc., etc. So it's depending on what stage you're at with your partner, and it's depending on what you guys see for yourself and where you guys think you need to, I wouldn't say change, but you need to tweak on a little bit, and how you see the future for yourselves. And then you go from there, I guess.
That sounds really good. Olu, go on. I was just gonna ask you to chime in, Olu, because you've been a bit quiet.
I do, exactly. I also think it's about compromise. I think, it's because at the end of the day, one of the analogies that we kind of alluded to when we started recording was the fact that you need to respect the fact that both people in this relationship are from very different spectrums and backgrounds. And to a large extent, we're products of our environment. So when you guys come together, there has to be compromise for that relationship to work. Ask me why. Both of you are, to a large extent, set in your ways. Your ideologies are set from your upbringings and whatever it is you think, your perception of life. So when you come together, I don't think it's a matter, because sometimes I think what I'm trying to say, sometimes people see you asking for compromise to maintain control. And that is the bit I'm trying to kind of break here, to say in any relationship, there has to be compromise for things to work, because some things that I was raised to think are okay in my background, I might meet my partner and he doesn't feel comfortable with that. And I need to be humble enough and respectful of their feelings enough to say, okay, this doesn't change my personality. You're not asking me to change and become what I'm not. You're just saying, be mindful of my emotion when you're doing so and so. Or could you be, less like this in terms of how you express this? So I think it's just the communication side, because these are things that we also already spoke about. Because you talked about how you mentioned pillow talk. Yeah. It actually takes two people who really want to talk to even have this pillow talk. Because if you have somebody who's not very communicative.
Pillow talk with my friends though. Like even the other week, I had a pillow talk with one of my female friends for like 5 hours. So
yeah. But it has to be two people who really want to talk. Because if you're in a relationship with somebody who is so shut down because they're very guarded, it's even difficult to broach a pillow talk.
Yes, that one that's hard.
So,
Uh, it's hard.
so,
And it's like you keep trying and you're not getting anywhere. So then it's like,
mhm.
what's the point? Like I've really tried everything at this point, and it's like I think they have come to the realization like, listen, I ain't ready. I just need to work on myself before I let you.
Mhm.
I've been hurt so much that I ain't trying to let another guy hurt me to a point where
Yeah.
I wouldn't say come back, but I can't deal with because there's
Yeah.
been, as I've said in previous podcasts, like a few of my female friends have said to me like, yo, they're scared of men. They're scared of dating
Yeah.
because of their past and because of what I was going to say men then, but because of what men have put them through. And it's like,
And this is where the
I know,
sensitivity comes in.
yeah, it's because it's like I know within myself what I can give you, and I know how
Mm.
I want to love you, but that
Mm.
opportunity has been taken by someone else because
Exactly.
he decided to do whatever he's decided to do, and now that opportunity can't arise, or that opportunity is now it'll probably be a few years later down the line, or it probably will never happen. So it's just,
Larry, quick question about hurt. Now,
mm-hmm.
it's a difficult question because you can't speak for all of society, but do you sense that society does not give enough regard to the hurt that young people emotionally go
Oh hell
through?
yeah, 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 because I've experienced it myself. As I said, when I was 18, my parents divorced. At that time, I was thinking, man's 18, that's not going to affect me. No, I'll be all right. But I even remember coming to your house sometimes as well, and just like I think people could see it in my face that I was mentally and emotionally not there. And it took for one of my college teachers, shout out Shireen, it took one of my college teachers to actually sit me down and be like, yo, you kind of need help. Like, stop trying to fight this battle on your own. Like, you have people around you that want you to succeed, that want you to do well. And then it was a sense of, okay, all right, cool, where do I go from here? So, because at that time, I lost a sense of direction. I lost a sense of identity within myself. So it was like, now I need to now kind of rebrand myself, become a brand new me. And that's where the spiritual side of things came in. And then I got referred to therapy. I did therapy for a while. It somewhat worked, but I still developed the same sort of feelings I had back then. But it was like accepting, because for a lot of men, it's like, but we have too much pride. It's like you don't even want to cry in front of your people. You don't even want to show that you're hurt. With me, it was like, I need to accept that I'm feeling this way. Or sometimes I need to cry to someone. And
Mm.
I remember being at a church camp, and I think Uncle remembered this. I just remember just crying. I've never cried like that before, but I just cried, and I just remember my uncle's wife, his wife, coming to me and just hugging me, and I think that's what I needed, and that was the beginning of the new me. All right, cool. I've cried. I've done what I've needed to do now. I now need to build myself back up and make myself a better person, not just for me, but just for the people around me, so they can take a positive thing out of my life. I always say to my team, if they can't take something positive out of your life, you can't be around them. Simple as that. It's a simple fact. And I just want to take this time to thank my uncle and my auntie for really supporting me through that time because where
Oh, that's wonderful.
there was times where I was just like, I just remember like my friend, because there was times I won't lie, I was suicidal at times. And I just remember one of my cousins telling me that as long as he's breathing, I'm not dying. So it was just like, okay, I know what this is in a sense. So I just had a new kind of reemergence. I knew what I was fighting for. I knew what I was trying to achieve.
And I think that's the reason why I asked the question about if the sense of hurt that young people go through is really really underestimated, maybe even unknown.
It's unrecognized.
It is unrecognized, or you
But
understand. And I
that's what I'm
think
saying. That's what I'm saying
right.
to you as well. Is all right, cool. It's understandable. Like, okay, it's two sides. There's two sides to it. It's unrecognizable, but you yourself need to now say it's gonna be difficult for you to say I'm hurt or I'm feeling this way. It's now you need to now have to self-assess yourself and be like, okay, I need help. Or the people around you need to tell you you need help. So it's like joining the dots together and making that step. As I said, I used to go into, Uncle, I'm not even lying to you. I used to go into the studio every day during that time with a brave face. A brave face. People.
You know, Larry, I was just going to say, every time I saw you, either at the church camp where we had thousands and thousands of young people having fun, or you were at my house, you always smiled. You were always making jokes.
Yeah.
You talked about football. You talked about your passions,
Yeah.
and no one saw the hurt. You understand? And I think one of the reasons why I brought this up as well is coming from you really sheds light, one, on the situation. Two, I think you have a lot to contribute in terms of, helping us to, you can educate people. So people listening can say, look, it's okay to express hurt if you know, obviously in the right context, within the right environment, with the right people. But I think it's also important to, would you say, to find a group of trusted confidants that you can, because I think showing your vulnerability in the wrong circle could actually cause more pain. I think maybe that's why a lot of people do not want to express vulnerability and hurt, right?
You clinched it, because I remember I used to do it to some of my college friends, and they just used to look at me like, but you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? But people that know the real me, that know my family, that know my brother, that know my mom, that know my dad, they saw it. They saw it. And I think it was like, okay, the passion I have for what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to build, that is what was keeping me alive at that time. And that's a pure fact. That was what was keeping me alive. If I didn't have those things, I don't even think I'll be sitting here talking to you guys right now, because I was so lost. I lost my identity. And I just remember I went to a Christmas party, and I must have said a comment or something like that. I don't even remember the comment. My uncle just said to my cousin, yo, you need to speak to him, because this is not him. This is not who I know. This is not a boy I've seen growing up. And then my cousin called me like a few days later. We spoke for a good 4 hours. Shout out, all right. We spoke for a good 4 hours. And it was like, all right, cool. Yeah. Something has to change. Something has to give at this point. And
I think the really helpful thing to everything you said so far was your willingness to actually accept help when it was offered to you.
Yeah.
Because it takes two. Because I am aware of situations whereby, people spot the fact that there's something not right. And with all the best intentions, help is offered and those are turned down. And there's only so much that you can do if someone is not willing to accept help. Yeah. So I think it's also, like you rightly said, for people to admit they need help when it's needed and to also be open enough to accept it. And sometimes, like you say, it's pride. It's coming from a place of pride that, how can someone like me need help?
And that was me. Yeah, that was me. Because I was 18 and I remember, I was 17. And just before that, I was acting like nothing was going on. My godmother, may God rest her soul, like she knows me like the back of my hand. There was one that she just sat me down. She's like, "What's going on?" I didn't even say anything. I just cried to her because she knows me, and that was also the start for me. If she can see it, and she can see the pain in my eyes, why am I hiding? What am I hiding for? There's no need for me to hide. I just need to find the correct dots, find the correct things, and
the other societal issue that I think might become a stumbling block to this is the fact that you were blessed with a very solid support system.
Yeah.
A lot of people do not have that.
And that's one thing.
So you have young adults who have grown up all by themselves from very young age, who have never known the love of mom or dad or any solid support system. And I think that is one of the things that we're hoping we can help with, because if you've never grown up in a loving environment, trusting will be a major problem for you, because the sense of loss that you kind of live with or abandonment that you live with. It's just another layer that needs to be sorted first. And until that is fixed, the idea of trusting anybody to even offer help to you, because you've never known love. So if someone randomly spots the fact that you're not okay and they're asking you to come this way or let me help you, it's almost like, oh, they must have some ulterior motive. Nobody ever offers me help. I've always found my own way.
Yeah.
And that is the thing. This is where we're talking about the foundation of who we are, the essence of who we are, that every one of us needs some form of support system, a group of people in our lives who know us and we can trust. And I kind of worry, because from what you said so far, I just wonder how this can be built, because like I said, Tolu and I have always admitted that we are learning too, as much as we are old school in the area of relationship. We are still learning, because so many things are happening in the society these days that we don't even know what to do with, or even we don't have an understanding of.
Yeah,
so I think the idea is also trying to seek a form of, like, how do people get over that? If you came from an environment where that support was never there, or you never really experienced the love of an aunt or a mother or a father, and you just literally were on your own all your life.
I sort of had that in a sense, but Uncle knows this full well. Like, my relationship with my dad is not the best. It's something I'm trying to work on, and I think Uncle would be a testament to this. When I was a young boy, me and him were like best friends. We used to come to Uncle's house almost every weekend together. Like, it was our time. Do you know what I mean? And as I said, once you grow older and you see what's the term I use for people? When you see things for what it really is, that's when you start developing your own thought process, your own identity, and what you want for your future family. And I saw a few, my dad will probably not admit, but I just saw a few things that just wasn't right on his part. And I was just like, okay. And I think for him, I just think he didn't like that, because regardless of whatever, we've always got love for each other, but it's a thing where to see his oldest son, who he loves dearly, I wouldn't say go against him, but to not agree with him on certain things, he didn't like it. And that's when but again, it's something we're trying to work on. And to say that, even to say it, because there was a period where I didn't see Uncle for like 5 years. I didn't see or speak to him, and I just came back to him. And it was like, okay, this is the type of vibe I need. Because he gives me that rawness, he gives me that authenticeness that I needed. He added that something different that I needed at that time. And it was something like, okay, this is what I'm going to run with.
So Tolu, if I can throw this at you,
having
been on this journey with Larry, and I know, like I said, Larry's been blessed to have that solid support system everywhere he turned to, literally. From your experience, because I'm not experienced in this area, what would you put out there to encourage young people who are trying to discover who they are, and they just do not have the kind of support system that someone like Larry kind of relied on to help him through those difficult years of his life? Do you have any?
Yeah. I've got some thoughts, and I was actually teeing up to ask you a question on how what steps did you take to identify people you could trust, so and add to your circle of trust where you can be vulnerable with, you understand? But I'll answer your question, and then maybe you could chime in. I think first and foremost, if from a personal perspective, right? This is my personal perspective, my approach. First and foremost, I tell myself, if I was to speak to my 20-year-old self right now, say in Larry's situation where my mom and dad split up as well, we had issues. I was closer to my dad than I was to my mom, that kind of stuff. And I think boys who are not so close to their mom. I was extremely close to my mom, but the relationship broke down because she got married again and da. Anyway, but what I had to do as a 20-year-old, 19, 18-year-old boy was I had to start, just like Larry was saying, I had to now start to reinvent myself, right? And I think the first step, which again came from spirituality, seeking God and understanding, I got an understanding that people hurt people hurt people. You've heard that statement before.
Yeah.
Hurting people hurt
'Cause I'm
people.
personally,
Say again?
I remember because me and my friend went through something at a time, and I hurt him because, and it's not even because I wanted to do it,
Yes.
it's just because I was hurting.
You were hurting, right? So hurting people hurt people. And once I established that, then what I did was I then reconciled in my mind that the world, as tough as it looks from the outside looking, from the inside looking out, it's filled with a lot of hurting people. So once I established that, then what I then started to do was to then think, okay, how can I source people who are aware of this insight that, look, people who hurt are hurting. And because once that awareness is in someone, you can forge an alliance with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was the platform that I started to build on, looking for people who had gained some insights like I had, to say, look, let's form alliances, because we know there are a lot of people who hurt people out there. Some, yes, they are just right out, I don't know, bad people, but I think usually if you strip the layers, you find out that they're hurting themselves. Okay. So I'll leave it there, and I think, Olu, maybe you can chime in, and because we're actually fast running out of time.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we've kind of, for what we're trying to cover today, we kind of covered what things people need to start assessing, because I think the lesson or the message from today's discussion is to make sure that we do a self-assessment. We're all, in a very healthy mental, physical, psychological state of mind, in our own state. If you're hurting, seek help. Don't be too arrogant or too proud to seek help. And try and trust, have one or two people that you trust, that you can form a kind of a good support system with, because everybody needs those. Everybody needs at least a good, solid support system. So yeah, that's what I'll say. And for me, I think I was a very privileged person, in the sense that my parents, were together. They're still together. So I grew up in a very happy, solid environment, whereby my siblings were there. We're still, all of us are still close. We're always touching base every week to make sure we're all okay. So that is there. And also, I have a wonderful husband who I rely on. So I have in my space, in my way, I have my own support system. So if I ever needed anything, I know who to go to. So I have those that I trust. So I think everybody needs it. And it's not because you're hoping that you have problems or you have issues that you need to get sorted. It's just a good mental thing to do, to just know that you have people you can bounce ideas off, people who you trust, people who just celebrate you. Because really, your support system is really the most likely to celebrate you.
Yeah. And for me, I just think I wouldn't change anything. No. Like the experience I've been through, everything, I wouldn't change it. I'd rather go through all that again to know that, yeah, because everything I did through that situation was pure. It was out of purity. So I wouldn't change it.
Fantastic.
Like I said, for the young people, just don't change yourself because you're trying to please people around you, because that's the thing that would end up destroying. So just be pure to yourself, because your purity will irritate the demons of Satan.
Fantastic. I think this is a part one. We gotta do this again. I think there's so much more we can unpack, but we have run out of time. And guys, it has been amazing. So please, if you're listening, remember, share this. Send us your questions. Send us any feedback that you have. We'll be more than happy to respond.
Sure.
So guys, let's just say goodbye until next week. From me, it's goodbye.